Alrighty, good stuff. Well, thanks a lot for jumping online this evening. Looks like we've got a fair few grazies online, which is great. For those of you that don't know me, my name's John McLaughlin. I'm the Rangelands Project Officer at the Northern Gulf Resource Management Group. I look after grazing projects, and if everyone can hear me, guys, there should be a little chat function popping up on each of your screens. If you could just say, yes, hear you, so that we don't get too far into it before finding out otherwise. So anyone that can find the chat box, see if Fiona's said yes, Emma's said yes, good stuff. So we're off to an all right start then. And yes, tonight's just a mapping information evening, guys, focused on how we can use mapping software to make more accurate, effective, and informed grazing decisions. I'm going to talk for the next, probably 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then I'm going to pass over to Kate Forrest from FarmMap4D, and she's going to talk for the next sort of 20, 25 minutes. A little bit of background about why tonight's taking place. It is part of the eBeef project, which is a project funded through the National Land Care Program's Smart Farming Partnership. And there are two major themes in this project. The first of all is developing, trialling and implementing new and innovative technologies. And the next is to protect and improve the condition of natural resources with an underlying goal of implementing best management practice. And we believe we can do so by using tools, technological tools, such as the one that we're providing a bit of information on tonight. So in the project, we're exploring a range of grazing technologies that are relevant to extensive grazing properties. A bunch there on the board that are all being trialled as part of this project, and of course any others that we might have forgotten about or that have flown under our radar that anyone else would be interested in looking into, please do come forward. We're trialling these tech and we're documenting the experiences of producers along the way. And then we're sharing those experiences with the broader grazing community in the area. We're determining how we can integrate some of these tools, which are rather new, and if not new, they're emerging into cattle properties across Queensland. And we've got some of these technologies which are brand new to the industry. Others have been around for many years, yet are still broadly underutilized. So there can be tremendous benefit in adopting these tools, but you really need to have the skills and the support to get the most out of them. So tonight's session will focus on mapping software in particular. And FarmMap4D is our provider of choice this evening. And it's an online tool that enables graziers to map, analyze, and plan their property. So from an NRM perspective, it is the capacity to analyze certain property characteristics that makes tools such as FarmMap4D so attractive. And the old saying that you can't manage what you don't measure has more or less plagued extensive cattle properties since they've been around, though we're finally beginning to have the tools at our disposal to reverse this trend. Mapping allows producers to assess the efficiency of their property in terms of animal production, analysing infrastructure and grazing management decisions in accordance with fencing, water points, land types, pasture production and response, stocking rates and grazing pressure, and so on. So in essence, it allows us to make more informed decisions for the future, and it's essential that graziers have the most accurate and comprehensive information at their disposal when they're trying to make these decisions. And for this reason, we think mapping software can become incredibly useful. I'm going to pass over to Kate now, and she's going to give us a bit of a rundown on the program. Most of you have found the chat function. If you do have questions as Kate goes along, guys, just whack them in the chat box. I'll sort of act as the gatekeeper to those questions, and I'll pull Kate up as I need to. Kate, looks like you've got your video going now. I'm going to stop sharing, and if you can jump in, mate, that'd be ideal.
Hey everyone, thanks John and Northern Gulf for the opportunity to have a quick chat on a Monday night at dinner time, so I will try and keep it as quick as possible. I will share my screen now, and I've got a few PowerPoint slides, and then I'll change over and actually take you into the tool and give you a quick demo. I'll take the opportunity now to introduce Joe Miller. Joe also works for FarmMap4D. He's doing some support and training, and he's been using it for a long time on properties in Queensland and the Northern Territory. So his understanding of your patch of the world is it's much better than mine. I'm based in Adelaide. So I will get on with the presentation. Share my screen. Okay. So FarmMap4D is an online mapping program that takes big data from all sorts of sources and allows you guys to access it. I'm going to run through a few quick slides, a little bit of background of FarmMap, because not all agtech companies start out the same, and yours actually started in the Northern Gulf NRM.
Hey, sorry, Kate, you might just need to swap your screens around. We've got the ones with the notes and everything on there.
Oh, good. Hang on. Try this one. Is that the right one now?
Yep, that's it. Beautiful.
Good. I'll also turn off my video so you can't see me. So yeah, it actually started through Northern Gulf, NRM. So Northern Gulf, when Mike Digby and Nolene Icon were there, so about 2013, 2014, we're looking at ways of bringing remotely sensed information together so that it could be used for the grazing community. So I think they used it a couple of times around huge flooding events to prove that it was an exceptional circumstance, and that government agencies should supply assistance and a few things like that. They then demonstrated it to the other natural resource management groups similar to them across the rangelands of Australia. So there were 14 or so of them who thought it would be really good to be able to access that sort of information for their graziers as well, and see if it was possible to apply it in a way that was useful to them. So FarmMap4D actually started out as the NRM spatial hub, and it came from a project through the National Landcare Program when they ran a two-year project through their Sustainable Ag Innovations grants. There were a lot of partners, so the CRC for Spatial Information, Meat and Livestock Australia, Australian Wool Initiative, the Queensland Remote Sensing Centre, and 12 NRM regional bodies, plus our grazier community advisory groups who were instrumental in guiding both the tool design and content. There were a number of things that they pushed hard for. One was recognition that you have limited bandwidth, and therefore we needed to be able online, and limited bandwidth online solution is what they were aiming for. So they didn't want software, and it's not a software that has to be updated, so it doesn't use all of your bandwidth doing those things. And all of the analysis, they also didn't want to have massive computers, so all of the analysis is done on the cloud. And that all occurred during this two-year project. During the project, they thought they would end up with about 40 properties trialing it, and at the end of the project, they had 300 properties on using the tool. So it was very successful, but it did kind of mean the partners had a decision to make around whether they stop the project or attempt to take it into a commercial entity, and they decided to do that. They didn't want to leave the 300 property owners just hanging in the breeze, so they've done that, and now it's run by a company called FarmMap Analytics. They run FarmMap, and they're investing in improvements to the tool, the service, and the capabilities. The map on the left of your screen shows where our clients are. All of them are in the rangelands. That's because the FarmMap4D is designed for pastoral properties. It isn't an ag tool that's being retrofitted for large properties. Altogether, at the moment, we cover about 10% of Australia's landmass. That is part of the joy of working with pastoral properties. They are big and we can sound quite impressive. So FarmMap itself, what it gives you is access to satellite imagery that you can then do your map the infrastructure of your property across those, and then interact with public GIS layers and remote sensing analysis tools through the mapping platform. It also provides data security. In FarmMap, you do your mapping, and when you put your infrastructure information in there, it belongs to you. We keep it secure, we don't delete it, we don't share it with anyone unless you give your express permission. And then what people get out of it, people that actually use it as on their grazing enterprises, not people like me who just use it for fun, is a map of your property, a digital map that's accurate, and when you share it, it's accurate as well. So you can download it and use it, use information on a GPS or on your phone through a Venza Maps. You can assess and plan infrastructure. So once you've got your map there, you can really start to see areas of the property that might be over or under serviced, monitor ground cover, and this can assist. Having these accurate maps, really, a lot of people talk about how much it helps with the health and safety. They can actually track where people are on their property. They know that their fences are going in the right place, and they can get really accurate business reports out of it. So that's enough chit chat, I think, looking at slides. Oh, one more thing. Like all new things, it can take a while for FarmMap to become second nature to use. So we have a number of ways that you get support. When you subscribe, you get an introductory online session with someone like Joe. There's also videos available on YouTube and a written user guide, because some of us still like to read things and get instructions that way. And links to both of those are sent out when you register. They're also inside the hub itself. So I'm just going to share the hub so we can have a quick look at it. Let's hope I get the technology right this time. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep.
Yep, cool, great. So this is what the hub looks like. And when you subscribe, what happens is you pay, and then we get you to give us the information on your property, and the registration is linked to that property, and you'll be sent login details, the URL that you click on, and then and a username and password. And when you use that username and password, you will come in here and you'll be able to see the cadastral boundaries of your property in a little red line. This property clearly has been quite well mapped and is very generously loaned to us, we've been given permission to use it as a demo, which is brilliant. In FarmMap itself, this is the home page, and it will tell you if there's any issues. So here we've changed our imagery lately. It wasn't up to scratch, so we've changed back to a different sort of imagery. They let you know that in this front page. There's the links to the YouTube channel, the links for the hub document. You can get direct help from support at FarmMap. And recently, They just put in a contact us form. So this way you can put in a description and take a screenshot of any issues that you have and send it through to the operations team, and they will get back to you. So when you get in here, let's have a look at what else. So it is a GIS type system, which means it's made up of layers of information. So I don't know if any of you were involved with property management planning in the past, but we used to get big satellite imagery maps or aerial photos of properties and then use plastic layers to do planning over the top of them. It's like that, only digital, I guess, and the layers actually have more information in them. So you have your property infrastructure layers, there's a land type layer, you have different base maps from around the country. So if I turn on the Queensland veg map here, you'll actually be able to see the different rural areas, vegetation areas. This is the rules about clearing and those sorts of things. And you'll also have grazing plan outputs, which I'll take you through in a while, time series satellite data. So that's the ground cover information. But all of this sort of information really works by interacting with the property infrastructure. And these buttons across the top here, you sort of are a bit of a workflow. You need to map your property, then you can use in the additional tools, there's lots of tools around measuring, and so if you wanted to look at measure an area that you're working on, you can just click it out, use it properly, and it will tell you the area. You can change that to hectares or square kilometres, and those tools are in there. Imagery analysis, so this is the ground cover analysis. I'll run you through an example of that shortly, and there is a stocking rate calculator which integrates a whole bunch of information from within this and from your own knowledge of your property. But where it all starts is in the mapping. So let's have a look. And we use, excuse me, some fairly high, some good quality imagery, which means you can zoom in and get a pretty good look at where fences, tracks, trees, and those sorts of things are, which means you can map them pretty accurately. And I'll just give you a quick example of what that mapping looks like. So you can see how it comes together. So you go into property infrastructure. It's just taking a moment. I've gone a little quick. There we go. And I want to put in a fence, but you can put in water points, other infrastructure, water lines, those sorts of things. You start with your fences. So I'm going to start with your fence. And you can put in a boundary fence. Now, when you're mapping here, you can see that little blue cross that comes up. This is one of those quality control things. If you see that little blue cross, then you know that your line is going to snap to that corner and go from there. Zoom in. And when you're actually doing your fence lines, there's not one along here, sneak down here, and you can follow fence lines through in pretty fine detail. Ignore the fact that I'm not. I'm going to zoom out and do this fence fairly quickly, so that I can show you how we attribute them. I'll just click it on here. Double click at the end and it turns it into a paddock. All these links are closed. We know that because the little blue cross came up. And then you can attribute these, so you can tell them what where the information came from. You can allow access to water. Now this is important for this tool, the distance from water analysis. It's a boundary fence, so you're not going to have livestock crossing it to get to water. You know, fingers crossed if the fence is okay. And so we'll just click no there and just save it. And we now have a paddock that we can generate and do analysis on. Now, it's just attributing that and adding it to the map. Here. And what you can then do, and that we're going to use this property as an example, is once you've got your paddocks in there, and then you there's a little thing in here that says generate paddocks, and what that does is check all your infrastructure is correctly attributed, and it all matches up, and that none of your paddock names are the same, those sorts of things. And that means that you can then run analysis tools. And one of the things that is pretty unique to FarmMap4D is the distance from water analysis tool. And if I go back into the layers here, we can have a look at the grazing circles plan that these guys have for their property. And how, well, I can't explain how it works, but what it is how far out from your waters you want your livestock to walk to get to feed, and how this is each of these circles, so the dark blue one and the lighter blue and then the slightly green, they're 1,000 metres, so to the edge of that light green is 3 kilometres from a water point. And the different colours just show you that the blue ones they think are permanent, and the brown one is, orange one is ephemeral. So you can make those grazing circles as big or small as you want. You can set all of that when you do the analysis. These guys have also used it to have a look at their property in a drying scenario. So in 2014, they had a bit of a failed wet season. So they went out and they looked, and they did still have water all across their property at that stage. But what they did was over each month through the dry season was go out and check where these waters slowly but surely were no longer there. Now they still had grass, and they used this tool to work out where they could keep livestock and where they couldn't, and they did destock at the time, so they managed their grass quite well through there. But what this demonstrated to them was that there were areas of their property which they thought were quite well watered that were not, and now they've used this information to do infrastructure planning and put in new water points in these areas so that they can access the grazing, maybe not through the middle, I think that's a nature reserve, but up here in the top and on the eastern side, they've put in water points that are more permanent. And FarmMap has helped them do that, because I'll just show you something kind of cool. We have a digital elevation model underneath this as one of the layers that you can switch on. I'll just turn the circles off because it starts getting a bit crazy otherwise. Okay. So this is what the digital elevation model looks like. The white bits are the highest points in the map, and the blue bits, green and blue bits, are the lowest. And it actually changes with the extent of the map. So this is the highest point on this actual screen shot of the map, and that's the lowest point. And what you can do is make that a little bit transparent. And what we can also do is have a look here, and we have what's called the profile tool, and that allows us to put a transect across from, say, this dam down here, and we'll click to finish, and then click OK. And what it will produce is a profile of that line across the land, what it would look like. So you can use this tool to set up water infrastructure much more quickly than if you have to go out and do it on foot or using a GPS and a vehicle. This allows you to pick and choose. You probably wouldn't put your pipe through there. It's got a big bump in the middle, and you could probably find another way through the hills or around it. You can, I've done a straight line, but you can do curved lines. And one of the nifty things is that you can actually look on this line and see the circle, the blue circle, yellow circle. That is where this line crosses it. It gives you an accurate height elevation in meters. It also gives you an accurate pipe length across there. So it can be really helpful for doing polylines. I'll just show one more thing because I'm really aware of the time. But in FarmMap, we also have the satellite imagery for like fractional ground cover. So for this ground cover product removes a lot of the tree line, so where it's forested. So what you're seeing is actually under the trees where they're not too thick. And so it's mainly your grasses, which is mainly what your cattle graze. And the red colour is bare ground, the blue is dry grass, and the green is green grass. And these products come out every season, so every 3 months at the moment, and they come out as these single images, which are interesting, but some very clever folks have actually put them together into a time series so they can analyse them back through the last 30 years. And I'm just going to sneak back in and turn off this base layer for a second. So that you can analyse your ground cover through time. So I'm just going to look at a paddock and just some basic statistics. So I'm going to choose this paddock here. And we'll run an analysis on that paddock. So this has gone away, it's on the cloud, it's being analysed, and it's got 30 years of ground cover information for that paddock in a graphical form across a time series. So again, the red line is bare ground, the blue is non-green vegetation, and the green is green vegetation. And you can see how it varies through time. So here in 2014, you can see the evidence of the lack of wet season in the lack of green growth over that summer period. You can also look at this in smaller sections and get a really good idea. This is really handy for if you've made changes to your grazing management. Maybe you've gone from set stocking to having a spell in your system, or doing some more rotational grazing. You can start to really see how that effect comes in over time. Okay. So that's a very quick look at some of the main tools that people that are in FarmMap and what it looks like. I think I'll pull up because then you guys can ask questions and and we can make sure that we're answering your questions instead of me just rambling on.
Thanks, Kate. I'm going to jump in there and ask that anyone that might have a question utilises the chat button on their screens to ask anything. Otherwise, guys, it's sort of the official presentation done. I would note that FarmMap4D is sort of unique in the way that it's designed for graziers only. And so you won't find a drop-down menu or a button or anything on that screen that wouldn't relate to a grazing property, which there are other mapping softwares out there that are cluttered with a lot of other tools that are probably useless to you as graziers, whereas everything on here should be relevant. It's incredibly simplified. It's done in a way to be practical and feasible for you guys to use. What I would love to see is the stocking rate calculator and how that is how that's calculated and how easy it is to sort of utilize.
Yeah, okay. So the stocking rate calculator uses a lot of information. So it uses the grazing circles, so to work out the amount of your paddock that you have available for grazing. You can, but we need the land types to do that. And the one thing that's not working in FarmMap at the minute are the land types. So it adjusts your stocking rate to land types. It uses the grazing circles to work out how much of your paddock is available for grazing. You can then set the land condition, and that's on that ABCD land condition, and you can go in there and adjust that. And you can also say what condition a land type is at a distance from your water points, and then it works out a long-term carrying capacity. It's not a short-term thing, but as you adjust land conditions, say you can see that your land, your ground cover is improving through time using the imagery analysis, then you can adjust your land condition, and you'll see that your long-term stocking rate adjusts with it. And I can't demonstrate it because the land types aren't there.
And you under the bus there on accident.
Yeah, so thanks for that, John.
Would you talk turkey for a second with us? A few people out there, I imagine, wondering what's it cost? Is there any difference in pricing between different tools, or is it a one-size-fits-all sort of approach to the cost? Okay,
so there's two rates. There's a standard and a premium. The standard allows you to do all of the mapping that you saw me doing, and it gives you access to the imagery analysis, so the ground cover products. The premium includes the distance from water analysis and the profile tool and a few extra mapping tools. So when you want to export your maps, you've got a few more options, and the stocking rate calculators in the premium as well. The standard is $300 a year, and the premium is $750. If you've got more than one property, we knock 10% off the price. So, and it's a yearly subscription.
And how easy is it to take us from the screen we're on right now to sort of printing something off at home, or for these people, if they wanted to, graziers wanted to print up a couple of A4 sheets or something of their property? Is it an easy thing to do? Is it complicated?
It's an easy thing to do. Yep. You can just publish. You can either do a geo-referenced screenshot, so it actually takes a screenshot of the screen, and you can create an image like that, so it exports the map, and we can have a look at that. There it is. So you can use something as simple as that. Otherwise, you can publish predefined maps. So you can do a infrastructure map, layout portrait, size A4, resolution low. I'm going to go with low because I'm guessing that it will take less time. And it will print out a map of your property. There's also user-defined maps. So you can actually sit there and go, okay, I just want a map of this paddock or those sorts of things. You can also export your infrastructure data and do summary tables of all of the data that goes in there. So when I was doing the mapping of a fence and you do those attributes, you can say, you know, it's a 8-wire plain fence and it was built in 1962. All of that information can be is stored as data, so therefore can be accessed as tables, and is really useful if you are talking about if you need to talk to your banker about valuations or why you're updating your infrastructure and how much it's going to cost, or for tax depreciations or for property valuations. So yeah, it's all pretty, having the data at hand means that you can print it out. And this, you know, the maps are all cartographic quality, so you get a scale, all those sorts of things.
Just had a question, Kate. Is the subscription per property per year or one per year?
Per property per year. If you have more than one property, we do have a discount at 10%.
Anyone else with any questions? Chat function's great for it. Otherwise, I'm sort of satisfied, and I think I've seen most of it, and we can certainly share your details, Kate, if anyone had any follow-up questions.
Yeah, for sure. John's going to do a follow-up email, and that will have our contact details. So the email is info@farmmap4d.com.au, and that will come to me and a number of the other staff. So if I can't deal with it, you will get an answer. But the phone number on there is me, so you can just give me a bell and I can answer any of your questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tools there. If you haven't done mapping before, it's at least worth considering, and maybe even just giving FarmMap a call to have a little bit of a conversation about how it would work with your business. At least get a personalised sort of overview of how you might use it, and that there are a lot of support tools out there, whether it's us here at the local NRMs and with FarmMap4D themselves to upskill you and to make sure that you're comfortable with using these tools. Once you become proficient at it, the utility and benefit you get out of it sort of grows and grows as you become more comfortable. So as you can see there, the property type mapping, the distance from water, the profiling tools, the estimating of stocking rates, the inclusion of fractional ground cover and available feed. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate this to get information out of it that's useful. And coming back to that point about can't manage what you don't measure, a decent property map that extracts as much value as you can out of the data is that first step. Got one more question coming in for you, Kate. When looking at elevations, starting with a tank on a stand, does it take the measurement from the ground or where the water levels at the bottom of the tank are?
Nice one. From the ground level. Yep.
From the ground level.
Yeah, it can't tell that it's a tank, or it can't tell how high the tank is.
You can't add like a description to the tank itself when you put it in, or anything like that.
I don't think you can. We do, like, there's a lot of information when you put in a bore, and we can see. That's what we can do.
You can, Kate, can I just add, you can add that information, but it won't, when you actually do, say a profile tool analysis, it won't factor that in. It'll only factor it in the remote sensed elevation data. So when you're using that profile tool and you're coming from a gravity-fed tank on a stand, so it's a 3 metre stand, you've just got to remember to add that in basically when you're doing your analysis. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
But obviously, yeah, as Kate was about to say, yeah, with bores and things like that, you can enter, you know, standing water level, total depth, case size, everything about that bore flow rate. You know, if it's doing, you know, 1,500 gallons an hour, or if you're litres per second person, and so all that information is all stored in the one place about your infrastructure, which is the other great thing. And obviously when you pull that export infrastructure data out, you know, you've got all that information there. So for example, if you've got a boreman coming and you've got a shaft driven mono down a hole, you can pull that information out, or someone else, because it's cloud based, you know, an overseer can pull that data off and tell them, even if they've never actually pulled that bore.
And Joe, while you're on the line there, mate, from not using mapping software to sort of where you are now, is it something that once you start using it, you think it's an incredibly good resource that you sort of can't imagine life without now?
Precisely. You know, there's not a polyline I put in or a fence line that I put in that I wouldn't have a look on here first, whether it's, you know, trying to assess the best line because you're trying to get gravity flow, or you're just wanting to pick the most cost effective route. Yeah, it's just one of those things you find you just always go back to when you're doing anything infrastructure wise. And then the geo-reference screenshot tab, it's exporting a geo-reference screenshot is so easy out of this. It gives you the ability, that geo-reference screenshot is exactly as it says, which you can pull into Events and Maps, which has a free version that's an app on your phone, so you can give that to staff or contractors. And what that allows you to do is it'll show them where they are exactly on that map. So for example, you've got a proposed polyline and you're wanting to send a contractor out, but you don't want to have to hold their hand, or you don't have the time to show them every little corner and dog leg in it. Then you can give them that, and you know, it's you know, a nice and accurate line. You certainly don't get these dams on the wrong water course or in the wrong spot, or, you know, that are poor flows. And same thing with new staff, particularly at the beginning of the dry season, where you've got some new staff coming. They might be gap yearers. You can give them that geo-reference map, and, you know, some people inherently got good senses of direction, some have quite the opposite. It's sort of, from an OH&S perspective, all those things, you know, it all just comes into it. So yeah, I just reckon it's the duck's guts. Yeah.
I think that's a good note to leave it on, a nice glowing endorsement. And look, guys, if there are any questions that do pop up, please get in touch with myself or get in touch with Kate. I'm going to send up a little follow-up survey and email. The survey is about a minute long. It's just working out how extension staff such as ourselves at Northern Gulf, and I know a friend of mine, Kate from Desert Channels, is on the line as well, how to best go about making sure we can support and assist graziers in upskilling themselves and getting online with these and making use of it is really useful information for us. So yeah, reach out, don't hesitate to get in touch, and thanks a lot for jumping online. Kate, any final words from you?
No, just a big thank you to you, John, and everyone online for tuning in on a Monday night at dinner time to learn a little bit more about FarmMap. Hopefully we get to work together.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be in touch next time. Thanks.
Thank you.